Hello, fellow drinkers at the Jolly Heretic, resident poet here, and hello again to those of us joining from History Debunked. Now, Ed's stream last night, instead of being on YouTube, was on Odyssey, and as a result, there was something of a reduced turnout, but an excellent stream nonetheless. And I believe he plans to do all of his live streams on Odyssey going forward, so please keep an eye out for any announcements from him along those lines. In any case, last night he talked about race differences and paedophilia. On Odyssey we hope to ensconce, and tonight we will learn of things nonce. In case after case it differs by race, and should meet with the strongest response. Now, over the last few days, in the UK anyway, there's been a huge debate about the saintly Gary Lineker, the expression of his political opinions, and the fact that he didn't present Match of the Day on Saturday evening. And lots of his fellow presenters didn't turn up for those their shows either. They stood with Gary, as it were, and Ed suggested on Twitter that this sort of polarisation will be much more common in years to come. The fuss about MOTD makes little difference to me, but polarisation across the whole nation is not very pleasant to see. Also on Twitter over the last few days, Ed told us that after 18 years of living in Finland, he'd only recently come across the Finnish term for faux pas. I'm intrigued by a Finnish faux pas. It must be a little bizarre. They're so introverted that to be disconcerted must mean that one's gone a bit far. And then also on Twitter, a professor with her title in her Twitter name asked why people in the UK go to the trouble to become knights and peers of the realm. And Ed suggested that it might be the same reason why people put professor in their Twitter title. A title one gets as a toff is not unlike calling one prof. It's all apparatus for denoting status. In short, it's a way to show off. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Now, turning to history debunked, you'll be pleased to hear that Simon is now back from the Holy Land. And one of the videos I saw earlier on this week was his question as to how come there is no modern research on race and intelligence. The subject of racial IQ can cause, shall we say, a to-do. The culture of silence may lead some to violence. Mine's only 102. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And then the other day, Simon posed the question of how much genuine poverty is there in the UK as opposed to the government-defined sort. A fifth of us are impecunious. This does strike me as rather dubious. Those dripping with jewellery are up to tomfoolery, living lives that are really salubrious. And now it's time for today's funny story, which features a young blonde lady. And one day she walks into a big electrical shop store and she goes up to the shop assistant, points to one of the items and says, "Here, I want to buy a television." And the sales assistant says, "I'm sorry, madam, but we don't serve blondes in here." And the blonde lady's a bit taken aback. She goes away and thinks to herself, "I know what, I'll put on a disguise." So she comes back the next day with a big brown wig. And she comes into the same shop, goes up to the sales assistant, points and says, "Here, I want to buy a television." And the sales assistant says, "I'm sorry, I've told you, we do not serve blondes." And she goes away again, very upset, and thinks to herself, "I know what, I'll really go to town this time." And she puts on a really proper disguise, huge moustache, big hat, big coat, everything. She comes into the shop again, goes up to the sales assistant, points and says, "I want to buy a television." And the sales assistant says, "I'm sorry, I've told you once more, we do not serve blondes." And the blonde lady gets really annoyed and says, "How come you knew I was a blonde then?" And the sales assistant says, "Because that is a microwave." So that was today's funny story. So that was just a roundup from me today of the Jolly Heretics output and that of History Debunked. If you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see each other very soon. Goodbye.